Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are when you are joining us. My name is Sherisse Alexander, your host of Your Collective. On today's episode, we have Caren Carnegie from Transform Fitness Coaching. We literally just did like a 5-minute thing where it was like, oh, is that like the right title? And we'll put a pin in that if it comes up great. But, anyways, she is a Caren is from Transform Fitness Coaching, and she is a fitness coach. Caren and I met, what was it, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And we had a fabulous conversation about all things related to intuitive health, somatic health. And if you've been watching or listening to these episodes, you would know that I'm all about connecting the trifecta of mind, body, and spiritual health, and how much our body is really talking to us on a daily basis. Without further delay, Caren, please share with us a little bit about yourself, how you came to be I'm going to call you an intuitive health coach, and a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. So I am a personal trainer and spiritual life coach, and adjusting to the term intuitive fitness coach as well as I learn to accept and work with the tools that I've been given for this purpose that I'm in right now. So I work with people doing personal training and connecting, bridging the gap between physical and metaphysical. So usually when people come to see me, it's because their body might be speaking to them. And then I look at decoding things with their body, decoding things spiritually that their spirit might be saying to create harmony for them. So, and that really transforms, the way that they speak to themselves and showing them what they're capable of, not just inside the gym, but outside of the gym as well. So it just kind of trickles out into the rest of their life.
I'm curious. So, when you started, I guess I'm assuming that when you started on this journey, that you started as a personal fitness coach or a personal trainer, and then it evolved, or did you always know that you wanted to kind of meld these two worlds together?
Where I started was as somebody whose body was crying and I didn't know where I belonged. That's where I started. And then as I listened to my body and something inside of me asking for change, I was given these little kind of puzzle pieces that I put together myself. And it started with hiring my own personal trainer. And then COVID hit, we were outside of the gym. And then, I self-taught myself and I still worked with my trainer as well, kind of virtually, but then I kept on moving my body in, however way that I knew how, kind of teaching myself along the way. And then we were able to get back inside of the gym. Wasn't my reasons for starting into fitness were very different than what they are right now. So as things evolved, and spirituality came into my life and things like that, things have really kind of blown up. But I started as somebody who didn't know where they fit into the fitness world, the fitness space, the fitness industry, which I don't like calling it that, and not knowing, where to start, not feeling welcome in a gym space, worried that I was going to get judged. When I knew that I should get fit at the time, my thought of fitness was beyond me. It was something that I thought I had to pay for. It was something that I thought I had to, go to extremes or change my diet or do this and that. And what I realize now is that it was in here the entire time. And that's what I help people to discover is what does being fit mean to them. And I think fitness is doing really well for advocating for itself. It's a huge space. It's one of the many shoulds that keep people up at night. They lay there thinking, I should do this and I should do that. And they imagine a body that's not even theirs, which makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
So, what I'm here to do is advocate people back to fitness because, I was there, I get it. And I'm spiritually attuned. So, I know and I represent all the other people out there who feel left behind
Hmm.
by the fitness industry, who don't know where to start, they don't know where they belong. So, I'm here to hold space for those people, welcome them in as I would my home, and hope that we can trickle change throughout. I'm one person in this very big space, but I won't ever stop. I will not ever stop. I am always here to hold space and to listen and help those people who just don't know where to start or where to belong so they can show themselves what they're capable of. And
Yeah.
maybe it'll bridge that gap so then they have the courage to go off and join whatever it is that they want to do to take care of themselves. But just really important that we recognize that there's this group of people out there, and it's heavy and it's big, that just haven't had their story yet,
Yeah.
you know?
Have you always No, you already said that. Sorry. I wrote down this question and I'm like, I can't even read my own writing. I just want to go back to something that you said, and it was about not knowing where you fit. And I want to clarify what you mean by that. Do you mean in
Mhm.
terms of the fact that you have sure we'll say a little bit of the traditional type of personal or fitness trainer piece in it, and then blended with the spirituality piece? Is that really what you're talking about
And
there?
not even necessarily. Maybe they're just not seeing themselves in what's being portrayed out there in fitness, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. And that makes
That's kind of
sense.
more, and sometimes people don't, and they don't understand. And when people come to talk to me initially, it's because their body is speaking to them.
Hmm.
So, and it isn't even to them, any metaphysical factors aren't even really necessarily on their radar. But, that can kind of about as we go along, as they discover themselves. And so it's just kind of, people who don't see themselves in what's being portrayed or offered, or, if they're like, "Wow, I don't see myself here." Because I did the same thing and I still do the same thing. When I started and I wanted to exercise, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do or where to go. So my thought was, what spoke to me was hiring a personal trainer. But there's this all this knowledge out there and all these layers that can just get a little bit confusing for people. So it makes people not even want to start.
Yeah, for
Why
sure.
would they want to, right?
The
So,
gym and the fitness environment is can be a very overwhelming place and space. If you've never even set foot in a gym, like I've been going to the gym now for, okay, I don't go to the gym anymore. I'm just a yogi. But I remember when I was going to the gym, I think, and it just that feeling when you would walk in, you'd be like, oh my gosh, there's like so many people and so many machines, and I have no idea where to start. And how do I, or you go and you think you got to do everything all at once. So I guess, how do you take somebody through, like, where do you start? Pretend it's
mhm,
me. I've never been to the gym. My body's
yeah,
talking to me. What I see is not, I can't even conceptualize my body being in whatever I see out there. How do you
yeah.
take me through that process?
Right. People become so disconnected, with their body, and sometimes scared to start too, scared that their body is going to maybe let them down
Hmm.
or that they're going to get hurt. And what I want people to understand too is when we're visualizing fitness and maybe we're thinking of that gym setting or we're thinking about all this equipment, we don't need all that. We didn't evolve with leg presses and stair climbers and all this crap that, if you've got stairs at home, fantastic. Grab a box. Like, there we did it. We moved rocks. It's about moving the body in a way that feels good for you with, and I'll go along with how I kind of plan things for them. So initially, people contact me and it always starts with a conversation. So like this virtually one-on-one, if you're not local to where I live in Ontario. So virtually like this or in person if you are local. So we have a conversation and we talk about physical health and goals and things like that, things that you would kind of expect, but then there's transform fitness coaching questions. This is where I bridge the gap between the two. So I ask questions to get to know that person, to really get to know that person and listen to how they're responding with their words and with their body. And it's like their why. And I think everybody can relate to that in different industries. But I've broken it down. So the W being what has brought you to this moment right now. And people really kind of have to sometimes think and like hum and haw over that one. And, sometimes it says, kind of surface answer like, my doctor suggested that I do this or whatever. So interesting. So that's something that we write down and we take note of. Each, what is the thing that makes you the most happy or excited? I'm not talking about in the gym. I'm not talking about when you're exercising. I'm talking in your life. What
Mm,
makes you the most happy or excited?
Hmm.
Okay. What is something that you want more of in your life? Okay. And then the why. I want to know more about you. Tell me about you. Tell me about what makes you unique. I want to hear about their strengths.
Whew.
And what do they see their future self doing? This is a tricky one.
It
You
is.
know, in the beginning, a
Yep.
lot of people don't have an answer for me on this one
They probably
because
don't. I didn't.
they forgot who they are. Somewhere along the way, we've forgotten about ourselves and what makes us special. And we haven't thought about what we actually want to see our future self doing. So their future self might be out hiking in the woods on an anniversary trip with their husband. Okay, interesting. So when I'm planning their workouts, I'm going to be really keeping that in mind because when they do that, I want it to feel good. When they're doing those things that make them the happiest in their life, I want it to feel good. And I want them to be able to do those things for as long as possible. Yes, in that other questionnaire, you may have told me that you'd like to do 5 unassisted pull ups. But you know what? When you're doing those 5 unassisted pull ups, you're not going to be thinking, I am so glad I did this. When you're going to be thinking about that is when you're hiking with your husband on that anniversary trip. We'll
Yeah.
get them to the pull ups. It's important to them, so we'll do it. But I've also listened to these other things that this, beautiful person has told me that is really important. So their workouts and the recommendations that I make outside of the gym are all sprinkled with these things that they
Yeah.
talked about because then they're going to want to do it. They're going to want to do it for a long time. I don't want anyone's fitness to be a short season.
Yeah.
These physical bodies house our spirit. They represent who we are, and they are beautiful, every single one. Why should we think it should look like somebody else's? It's just reminding, what does fitness mean? And you see it in a lot of my stuff where I hyphenate it.
Yeah.
I've made my own definition for it because I didn't like any of the other ones. It's just who I am. I didn't like them. So to me, fitness is feeling sound and happy within your body and your environment. When you feel sound in your body and in your environment, that is fitness.
Yeah. All of that reminds me of I did have this personal trainer, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. And pardon me, there was something that she'd said that what you're saying is kind of reminding me of. Now, she was traditional in the sense of like all the types of exercises your personal trainer might make you do, but a lot of her movements were what she would call functional movement. And she was doing functional movement long before functional movement became a thing. And I think really what you're trying to get people to have an awareness of, individuals have an awareness of is like, are you, if you're talking about how you feel in your body, it goes so much with, some people say things like, I want to play with my kids. I want to go to the park and be able to do this thing or that thing or climb a flight of stairs without feeling winded. And then really what you're trying to do is to get them to marry that. The fitness is not necessarily so much about having a six pack or being a size 4 or whatever the case may be, but really more about how you are feeling in your body and the longevity of that, right? It's like, it's fantastic that health advancements or medicinal advancements now allow us to live longer. But what's the point of that if you feel like crap in your body?
And why should we, throw, we think we should do something, so we're going to do it to the extreme, all or
Mhm.
nothing.
Mhm.
What kind of life is that? What kind of life is that? And and what I say isn't going to resonate with everyone, and it's not meant to. It's not meant to. But there's people out there who understand what I'm saying, and this will resonate with. And it goes a step beyond, and it's just not just functional, but it goes beyond that. Even another layer is honoring their spirit with their exercise too, so they can remember who they are. And all of this turns into, the exercise part of it is actually a really small part of what I do. So then when they remember who they are and what they're able to do and aren't scared of their body anymore, aren't, or they have confidence in their body and what it's capable of, they're going to go on along their journey because we're all here for a reason. We are all here for a reason in this earthly existence right now in these bodies. It's because we have a job to do.
Hmm.
So then those things that maybe they were holding back on, they can go off and do with more confidence and more clarity, and more energy, which is
Yeah,
really important. So it's kind of
absolutely.
just tying that all together. So yeah, it's really beautiful.
I love that. You talked a little bit about, well, not a little bit, you've definitely talked about marrying the spirituality piece into it. Have you always had a fully conscious piece of spirituality in your life?
Sherisse, not at all.
Hmm.
Not at
Do you
all.
want to
In
share a little
hindsight,
bit?
now looking
Yeah.
back as we do, it's been it's been evident for a really long time, but it wasn't really. I didn't answer the call until 2022. And I really avoided it for a long time. And I think I was meant to. I really struggled with a reliance on alcohol. And now looking back, as shitty as that was, there was a reason for it. There was a reason for it. No excuses for anything. And I wish I could change it. But I wasn't meant to discover what I'm supposed to do until now. So taking that piece away, I was able to go to the darkest depths to heal, to rediscover what I'm capable of so I can help other people do the same, whether, in whatever things that are making them stuck in this life. And it's so different from everybody. It could be an unhealed relationship, it could be stuck in the past, reliving belief traps. It could be, their body showing them signs, of physical signs of chronic inflammation when it's a matter of moving through life with ease. There's all these different things that have come up, and I'm now ready and here and open to help them kind of discover these things for their own journey. But I was very much my feet firmly planted on the ground. That would never even was a thing. It wasn't even in my awareness
Wow.
until all of a sudden it cracked right open.
Yeah.
And my first experience was seeing someone giving me a message to quit drinking, that it was my time now. It's your time. And I say this
Party's
on a lot
over.
of my stuff.
Come on, Karen. Party's
Party's
done.
over.
Last
Literally,
call.
yeah, exactly. And it's so, so that's why I don't use the term alcoholic or addicted to alcohol. I was reliant on it, and I was for a reason. And then now here we are, and I was very much of the notion then, and condition. I mean, we were talking about that before, conditioned to thinking certain things, like, I work in healthcare, I work in the dental field, so I was always going to work for someone that that credentials and things like that are very, very important for what we do and for what we're supposed to do. That this is what it was going to be, and that I couldn't make a change at this point in my life. And then again, I was offered a glimpse of hope that, what, if you can have something different for yourself. But I couldn't wait for things to change. Things weren't going to change. I was the one that needed to do that. So then my environment would be better and more suited to what was in my future.
I'm just going to go back to something you
Mm-hmm.
said here for a moment because I think it's a really important point. And you didn't use this word, but I'm going to use the word. The word's contrast. And the reason why I bring it up is because you talked about an over reliance on alcohol. And let's be honest, a good portion of the world is over relying on some coping mechanism, be it drugs, alcohol, sex, work, gambling, working out, any of those things. And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. I was saying to this person, I said, at the end of the day, we all have something. And the key is how do you, when you find you're doing this thing, whatever your coping mechanism is, and you're still not happy, then that obviously means that there's something else that we're supposed to do. And I always think that those situations are often a catalyst in order for you to make a very conscious choice, right? And the point that I was making in this conversation is because there was a lot of judgment going on about this person that was over relying on substances. And I'd said, you don't know what this person is supposed to do. You don't know what this person's journey is. You don't know what their mission is. And so when I say, let's not judge, what I'm saying is you can't, it's very, very difficult to help people if you lack empathy in a situation. And the easiest way to have empathy is obviously to have had the experience yourself. So I guess I would offer to you, as you also said, which is you had to go through the experience because now it allows you to witness it in other people and to come from a place of understanding and empathy so that, because, sometimes where people are like, how do you know? Well, I know because I've been there. And I can, and there's almost like sometimes maybe disbelief, like, oh, really? Like, yes. So if I can do it, overcome this over reliance, then as you can as well. So, and then the last point about contrast is that sometimes you have to experience what you don't like in order to know what you do want and what you do want to call into your experience. So I just wanted
Mm-hmm.
to maybe put a very fine point on what you were saying there.
It's so true. And that's why I think I was meant to see and experience the imperfections in fitness
Mm-hmm.
as well. So then I could truly, truly, be immersed in what I'm doing now to help kind of inspire change and hold space for people. I
Mm-hmm.
get it. I get avoidance when it comes to looking within. I get it. I understand.
I don't even think most people even know what those saboteurs are. I certainly didn't. I knew there were like, I knew of four. And then I was talking to somebody and they were like, well, no, there's actually nine. And I had done the assessment and I was like, and as soon as I had done the assessment and I saw what my top two saboteurs were, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me 100%. And so I sent this thing off to like everybody I know. I'm like, you should do this. You should do this. This is very helpful. You see these behaviors coming, you can recognize it and be like, okay, I'm sabotaging. Let me do something different here. So I thought it was really curious because the last few guests that I've had, everybody has made these massive changes in their life around COVID. And it's just such a theme. Like, I swear, the last 5 or 6 guests are like, yeah, I just totally decided to like change my life. It happened either right before COVID or in COVID. I just decided to like quit my job and do something totally different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so clearly, COVID has been a major turning point where there's more talk about maybe metaphysical, intuitive eating, intuitive fitness, intuitive business, like just so much. Do you agree? Like, I just
I
literally wrote this
agree.
down.
No, I totally agree. And it's for a variety of reasons. And I think that COVID also instilled a lot of fear in people. And when something traumatic happens like that, it is kind of a catalyst sometimes for these big life changes. We can choose to go one way with it, or we can choose to go with kind of another way with it. But no, I agree. That was is a pivotal moment for a lot of people. And people realized too, they were home more, needed to spend more time with myself, which I was really uncomfortable doing at that point.
I really loved it. I
Did you love it?
really, I
Yeah, no,
did.
that was like my like worst, that was rock bottom for me. Like I didn't like the person that I was then. And I realized that when I had to spend more time with myself and I wasn't, you know, doing these other things that were keeping me distracted. So that's kind of what inspired my pivotal change. But yeah, I think it's was a meaningful time for many, many people in
Yep.
their own journeys.
If
I
people
don't
could
hate
look at
it.
it
I
that
don't hate
way.
it for that.
Me neither. Not at all.
Mm-mm. No.
I really enjoyed it. Okay, it sounds terrible when you say it like that, but I have learned to be very comfortable with myself. So being by myself and in the early days of when the global shutdown happened, it was like nothing was happening. So it forced you to like do things that you wouldn't normally do, or as you rightfully pointed out, like you just slow right down because it's just what are the other options? So I personally found it to be a gift. I know there were.
Now, I wasn't spiritually attuned yet then. So I really got sucked into the condition. Like I got sucked into the conditioning of fear and how to navigate this stuff. And had I been more spiritually attuned then, I think I don't think I know I would have looked at it differently. I would have felt safer and more protected. And I would have had a different perception on all of this. But I wasn't yet. That wasn't in my awareness yet. So I was among those who were just crippled with fear about the whole thing.
Yeah, I never was.
Mhm.
I remember calling some of my friends. I'm like
I
literally
wouldn't now.
scratching my head and I'd be like, I don't actually understand what's going on right now. I'm very confused. And I was really honestly genuinely confused. No, we're not going down a COVID rabbit hole. I remember that it wasn't fear. It was really a really for me just confused about what the heck was going on in the world at that moment because none of what I was seeing was making any sense. I'm just like, I'm just going to stay right here. I'm just gonna mind my own business.
Good for you. I wish I had known you. I feel like I've known you for years, but I wish at that point in my life I would have had a Sherisse in my life to tell me that everything was going to be okay. But I was like there too, watching the news, just waiting for like Trudeau to speak and like what's happening to I gave my power to everybody else.
And I'm so glad you just said that because one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, a lot of the people that I've been talking to that are I'm going to call it alternative healing modalities. And that is a large umbrella that covers a lot. And I would probably put you in there because of the intuitive piece and probably the way that you approach it. And a lot of the folks that I've been talking to all come from the same kind of premise, which is like, it's really about empowering people to empower themselves. It's your health potential. It's your body. You know it better than anyone else. So I imagine that when your clients come to you, is there an awareness of their body? Well, I guess there is no awareness or not as much awareness because they're kind of scared of their body. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It starts that way, but it's amazing how quickly I've seen that shift. So it starts with people maybe not even wanting to look in the mirror because they don't, that person that they're looking at had like they've been bullying each other for years. And I don't blame them one bit. So it's understanding there, meeting them where they're at, but connecting to their body. And this is how I use strength training now too, is how I use it now is different from when I started. I think when I started, I was replacing one addiction with another one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was what it was, right? So, and it kept me going and motivated and distracted from some other stuff that was going on. But now it's different, and I connect. I drop into my body. I've met a lot of people who just they've got a lot of energy up there, up here. We throw the term mindful out a lot, but like the mind is full. There's like overthinking happening, worry, all this stuff. So it gives them a chance to drop that energy down into the body, connecting to each muscle as they work out, modifying the reps so they can do it nice and slow and frequent, and it becomes like this meditation. They're engaged in something. It's become like it's a nice flow. So they become connected to their body. They see what their body is capable of. So I'm designing these workouts and progressing it for them based on what I see. Because maybe if they did that on their own, they limit themselves a little bit, perhaps.
Sure.
I know I certainly did in the
Yeah.
beginning. So they're like, oh my goodness, like I didn't realize I could do that. I'm like, I knew you could because I've been seeing what you've been doing, right? So we progress things safely for them. And so connecting into their body and is a huge one. And that when people realize that, then they have a newfound respect and appreciation for the body and what it's capable of and how it makes them feel after this workout, after they've connected and moved that energy about. They leave better than what I found them because that energy has shifted. After a good meditation, just a
Yeah.
good, they just more clear and just they are just feel so accomplished that they're like, wow, like that's they just understand the power that that is. And to go back to what you were just saying, I want people to realize that you are your own personal trainer, you are your own spiritual guru. That's you. It's you. You're the coach, right? It's just having somebody to kind of point you in those directions or shine a flashlight for you. You're doing the walking.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I say. I'm like with my members, they're driving. I'm
Yeah.
just setting the vibe. I'm picking the tunes. I'm
I'm
just
here to
setting
be
the
your
vibe.
cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're the ones doing all the work,
Yeah.
but just understanding how powerful they are and how little they need. Again, we don't need all this fancy equipment. We don't need powders. You don't need to count macros. You don't need to be doing this or that or anything else. It's as long as you've got to, work smarter, not harder. You don't need to live at a gym. You don't need to go beyond yourself.
Thank you for actually bringing up the food piece because I wrote it down here as well. Have you ever come across, like, I'm sure everybody who's listening or watching has, I was saying to another guest, I'm like, what the heck happened with the food industry? Like, when did eating become so blooming complicated? Like, sometimes I think you really, at one point, I definitely felt like I needed a darn degree in order to figure out how to eat for my body. And I think I'd read somewhere, and I've definitely adopted this lately, where it's like, I'm an intuitive eater. That is how I eat. I eat when I feel like it. I do intermittent fasting as well. So I don't eat outside of obviously specific hours, but I really just eat what feels good. And
Thank you.
if I eat something that doesn't feel good, then I'm like, oh, what did I eat that is not, there's certain things that create inflammation in the body. And I was saying to my daughter, I'm like, I remember there was this one night I was like laying on my couch and I was eating a granola bar. And once you figure out how to really drop into your body, you can feel the inflammation pretty darn quickly. And so I was sitting there after eating this granola bar, my feet are on the couch, and I could feel like my feet swelling. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a reaction. No, it wasn't major. And if I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't have felt it. But those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about when I say intuitive eating, like, being gassy or, swelling. Like, I'll always check, how are rings fitting on my fingers? Am I retaining water? Things like that. And so the question I wrote here was like, have you ever met an intuitive dietitian?
I don't know. That's a great one. And I'm sensitive around the subject of nutrition because people really it's actually a sensitive topic for a lot of people and nobody likes to be told how to eat. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't want somebody to tell me how much to eat of anything either. And I have cookbooks that I'll, depending on what physically their goals are, stuff just to kind of get them with like well balanced, well rounded meals, kind of get them on the right path. But other than that, I just kind of I encourage people not to change too much, especially at the beginning, so they can see these little steps and how their body's responding. And that's the biggest thing. And again, having compassion for yourself and forgiveness for yourself. There's so much we use all of our senses when it comes to eating. Maybe we're around people that we love, or the smell of this stew reminds me of your really eating is very, very important. It's a beautiful experience. But I feel like with everything, these industries have kind of made it, again, we've lost touch with how beautiful and basic eating is in nourishing our body. And we nourish our body through food, exercise, the things that we consume, but we also nourish our body with thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
people,
Yeah,
the environment as well. So it
absolutely.
also have forgiveness for yourself. So if you're experiencing something, and people will take these haphazard approaches to dieting, and some of them are very extreme. People, I don't want to bring up too much, but people will do some extreme stuff just to avoid, you know, listening to their body when it comes to food. There is no rush either. Everyone is in a rush, and a part of that is again these kind of these sabotaging things that we have, that everything happens so fast, and things that they appear on these devices
Mm-hmm.
just seem to happen like that for people. I assure you they do not.
Yeah.
Nobody is in any rush to go anywhere. We're on this earthly existence for as long as we're meant to be, and that might be a really long time. So slow down, listen to your body when it comes to all of these things, exercise and food, and enjoy the process of it all, because you are going to really learn and uncover a lot of things about your body,
Yeah.
and things when it comes to food and exercise too. So just really, and I hope that there is an intuitive, somebody that can help people with this, and when it comes to the nutrition aspect, because I feel like it would be really kind of a nice complement to it all. But yeah, have forgiveness for yourself. And there's other things too that can, that cause our bodies to respond. So these metaphysical things in our environment, things outside of the planet too,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
when it's a full moon, sometimes we retain a bit more water.
Yeah.
Things like this. It's okay. It's not maybe because you ate anything that you shouldn't have. And you know what? Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
Even if you did, you had that bag of candy, tomorrow's a new day. It's not this all or nothing thing. Like, you didn't just throw like years of progress away by having whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Have some grace.
And different seasons too. That's why things grow
Yeah.
in different seasons, because that's what grows in the environment. So it only makes sense that our bodies, that we kind of eat to the seasons too, right? So maybe in, the summer having more cold, fresh, raw things, and then the winter more of those comfort foods as we're kind of in hibernation. So just looking at that stuff too. There's no eating chicken or broccoli every day. Do you think your spirit wants that?
Yeah.
I guarantee you no.
That's a great reminder to have grace with the process and recognize that like it's a journey. It's not a race. It's
And
such a
have
cliche, but it's
fun.
like so true.
Have fun,
Well, life is actually meant for joy.
Exactly. And
This
this is one of my
energy.
questions that I
Yeah.
ask. What brings them joy? Probably not weighing their food.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. I can't eat that yet. Let me just grab my scale.
Yeah. No, this is what I eat on Tuesdays. No.
When you're working with clients, I think one of the really beautiful approaches about what you do, and I do this with, I mean, this is obviously part of a yoga practice, but you know, how you talk about really dropping down into your body and like really feeling the muscle, right? Because it sounds, it's, when you say that to someone, I'm like, well, it sounds easy, but the truth is like you're actually really asking them to like feel the muscle as it extends, feel every fiber of that muscle so you can feel it like working together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So they can connect. So their mind can connect. Like we talk about mind muscle connection. So they can connect that movement to that muscle that's being worked. And they, by doing so, understand their body a little bit more,
Hmm.
and then can kind of get away from all that other stuff that may be causing some distraction up here. So it's just giving them something else to focus on and connect to. And that's how I, again, when COVID hit and I was kind of self-learning my fitness stuff downstairs, that's what I did. So then I could understand the muscle groups and the reps and and all of that stuff and the different movement patterns and how my body felt. And and we're not robots. We talk in personal training about programming. We can't be programmed. So what feels good for me, like last go round, is not going to feel good for me right now, because part of my journey right now, I might crave more stability stuff than
Mm,
lifting heavy weight.
yeah.
I might be, based on what's going on in my environment, my
Very true.
body might be craving, not lifting such heavy weight and maybe just stretching more, moving my body in a different way. So recognizing all of that too, which is why really when people are signing on to work with me, they're not subscribing to a package, a template, or a,
It's very,
you
very
know,
specific and
it's
unique.
very specific, and there's a lot of human connection.
Hmm.
We have ways to make it more accessible for people. Like I use an app and things like that. But at the end of the day, I am there with them, working with them to make sure that it is tailored to how they love to live and how their body wants to move, right?
You
Because
know,
that'll change.
I just want to, and one thing that I really loved about what you said there is the piece around, because I remember when I was going to and sometimes this stuff can get so overwhelming. You're like going to the gym, you got to do strength training, and then you got to do like cardio, and then you got to do like this, you got to do that. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to do all that stuff. Like it just sounds like so much. And again, about having grace for like where you are at this point in your life. So maybe this phase is I want to do strength training. And another phase is no, I really, so whatever it is. And I love that you're really allowing or holding space for people to say, give yourself hold space for yourself in whatever it is you need in that moment. And I think that part of that challenge is, even as I speak to people about anything mundane and there's, let's say, confusion about how I find this answer. And often my answer is the same. Ask yourself. It's literally as simple as what physical activity do I feel like doing today? And the first thing that comes to your mind is what you do. That is yourself knowing what it needs in that moment. It is literally that simple. And some days I'll do that. I'll be like, okay, what do you need today, body? Okay, salad. Awesome. Okay, what do you need today? Oh, I need steak. Awesome. Like whatever it is that I might feel or whatever comes to me is, and it can be that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
It shouldn't be complicated. You have the power. You don't need these fancy powders and equipment and all these, but it's just, and I don't blame people and how it's gotten so
Yeah.
confusing. So I really want people to realize that there's somebody who out there who understands, and I don't blame you for not wanting to start. And I think we need to remember in every space that we're in, because even the spiritual space is getting confusing too as more people are coming online with certain things, and and nutrition and exercise, everything. It's just, it's one thing after another that we need to remember as coaches, and we all have the same thing in common. We want to help. We're helpers,
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful thing. We all want to help. So yes, I am an ally of the fitness industry, but I'm not an advocate for one. I'm an advocate for people to the fitness industry. I'm not advocating fitness to people. People know, they know the benefits. I'm not going to be the one to keep them up at night. But I just, again, it's just stripping those layers away and just trusting and listening to yourself. That's the biggest takeaway here. Like you just said, Sherisse, just listen to your body when it comes to, and your own intuition. If something is kind of leaning, if you feel a fire inside, and maybe it's, related to joining a yoga class or something, lean into it. Lean into it. Maybe that's what's there for you. So it's just, don't just, and again, talking to coaches and anybody, just remember who you're talking to. Remember who you're talking to. Are you talking to the coach that you are now, or are you talking to the coach that you were before you started? That's where you need to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, I feel like fitness coaches are speaking to who they are now. And that's going to resonate with the people like really already well underway in fitness. No, we need to talk to the people that we were before we started. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
100%. The
Okay, we
beginning,
need to
meeting
talk
people
to
where they
those.
were. Yeah, meeting people where they are.
Exactly. Who we need to talk to so they know that it's okay. We got you. I want people to feel welcome, like I would welcome them into my home. But if we're throwing all this stuff at you, I don't blame you one bit. I was there too. I still am there as a personal trainer. I don't train inside of a gym. I train at home because of how I use strength training for my own, just being present and clear. But even as a personal trainer, I don't know where I belong, which is why I am exactly where I am today.
You keep saying that, and
I know.
so I would offer you're exactly where you're supposed to be, right? There is no label for it, and it doesn't require a label.
Exactly.
So I'm curious if are you familiar with Louise Hay and the work that the author Louise Hay?
Fairly.
Yeah.
I was really into literature at the beginning of my stages, then took a bit of a pause in between, but now it's really funny what I'm actually getting called to read about. And I'll talk to you about that a little bit later, but no, I don't think I've read anything from her.
Okay, so the reason why I asked is because I think when we were chatting previously, it was just in the conversation you were like, yeah, if somebody has like a pain in their hip or in their knee or this or that or whatever the case may be, I can help them figure out like really what is your body saying to you. And for the audience, I talk about Louise Hay's It's Heal Your Body. And it's basically, so if you've never read her stuff, really what she's talking about is exactly what we're talking about, is how the body is always speaking to us. And she has almost like this encyclopedia in the book where it's like, okay, if your shoulders are bothering you, then it means this, or the probable root cause is this thing. If you are a really common one is that one, right? Your throat is sore. You need to clear your throat. In fact, I was talking to somebody the
Something you
other
got to
day.
say.
Yeah, it's something you got to say. And this
Yes.
person was telling me about how their throat was killing them. And I said, what are you angry about that you're not saying? Because I just whip out my book and
Love it.
according to Louise Hay, you are really angry about something that you don't want to say. And if you don't want to say it to me, it's fine, but at least speak it. Because if you speak it, you're acknowledging it. It doesn't mean you have to own it. It just means that it's like, if you think about it, it's like when a kid is having a temper tantrum and they're doing their thing and they're freaking out and they're crying and they just want to be acknowledged. I see you. I hear you. I understand. No, you can't have the candy bar or whatever the case may be. But, and I think that our bodies respond much in the very same way when we finally see dis-ease in our body or illness or physical manifestation of some sort, that it is because we have tuned it out for a really, really long time or become disconnected. And we're overwhelmed, distracted, so on and so forth. So the only reason I brought that up is because when you were talking about, having members that might have a physical manifestation in their body and kind of going down this intuitive piece, I actually thought that you would be very familiar with Louise Hay. So how did that
You
all
know
come
what?
about?
That is really funny that you said that. And I've got two things here that I wanted that you just said. And when do we ever stop being those children whose emotions are exploding? Those children's are they're still in here. It's just
Mhm.
our body is bigger. And we've learned through conditioning and other things to suppress and repress those emotions, which are showing up in our body. When we were kids, it was more acceptable to just explode in Costco,
Absolutely.
you
Look at a
know?
kid play. They're out there, they're running around, they're being okay, I can't. I don't actually
We're
know the kids do that anymore, to be honest with you. I don't know the
Well,
kids
mine
do
do
that.
because we live out in the, yeah, anyway. But but when do we ever stop being those kids? We're
Mhm.
still these energetic beings full of emotion, but we suppress it and repress it. And then it shows up in our body because it gets trapped. It's got
Mhm.
to get dealt with.
Yep.
Right. So it's funny. So when you mentioned about, so I actually was guided by my own higher guides to take a bit of a literature break because when I really was when spirituality came calling, like I did with fitness, I really obsessed over it at the beginning. And I was
Mhm.
reading, like, I couldn't get my hands on enough
Enough
literature.
content. Yeah.
Oh, and I learned a lot. It was fabulous. But then I was guided to stop for a minute and just instead of, because I felt like I was just kind of, again, giving my power away to these other sources. But I learned a lot from it. But I was guided to just take a little pause for a minute and just trust in what I was receiving
Mhm.
for myself when it came to the body and members and stuff. So that's really when I started learning the most was through actual experience
Mhm.
and my own intuition about the body.
Mhm.
And that was fabulous.
That
And
is
I
amazing.
felt so powerful when I was on this literature break of all the stuff that I was receiving and that I was channeling through, through my writing. Like I channel a lot through, I get downloads and then I write a lot. Like all the content on my website is all stuff that I wrote, social media, it's all stuff that I write. And then what I was receiving for members and then applying to their programming um, was all from consciousness. And it was
Mhm.
just a reminder of how vast consciousness is and how connected we are, that I would receive this information from someone else's spiritual team, higher guides, whoever it might be, to help them, in their own journey. So that's when I took a little break. And then now lately, I've been inspired towards the literature regarding Akashic record keeping, which is
Yes.
very interesting.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I've just started, so I'm still learning quite a bit, but then I'm like, huh,
I had to take a break.
yeah, but it's interesting, and from what I very little right now that I understand about Akashic record keeping is kind of tapping into people's blueprints when it comes to
Mhm.
their own journey, their existence here.
Yep.
So, which is kind of what I do. And I was like,
Yeah, that's actually true.
huh,
Yeah.
interesting. So I'm really curious to see where that goes. But yeah, I did take a bit of a break and just trusted in what the information that I was receiving from the outside. And then going back and then how it aligned with some of the stuff that I did come across and read and how it just aligned so well. So it was just really, it was just a really reassuring,
And thank you for sharing that, and I think what I would probably add to that is because, I like you, it's like you find something, you get really excited. And I did the same thing on Akashic Records. And then it was just like, okay, I got to put a pin in this because this is a lot of information. And I think that maybe part of it is maybe possibly a little bit of a distraction from actually doing, because there's the theory and then there's the application of it, right? At least for myself, it's like, I don't want to get it wrong. Like
yeah.
almost like it's a test, right? And it's
Yeah,
like, well,
that's
no.
our human nature.
Yeah.
We doubt ourselves a little bit on it, and that's what I was doing too. And I was like, is this so and so's like, way of teaching, or is this Karen Carnegie? So I was kind of confusing the two. It was becoming a little bit gray.
Yeah. And I mean, in some things, and even with like, I have this sciatic nerve issue on my right side, and I've been, and that really resonates with me what you're saying, because it was like, I use this book and I've been going through all the things, and I'm like, okay, it's not that. I thought I dealt with that. No, it's not that. And so finally I just sat down and I'm like, okay, what is it? Like, just tell me, because I don't know. Like, I've been trying to figure this out. And I don't think I quite have the answer yet, but I probably haven't slowed down enough to listen to it. But thank you for the gentle reminder that I am my own guru. So if I quiet and slow myself down enough, the answer will
Yeah,
actually come to me.
exactly. You're your own healer.
I am actually my own healer. I do know that I am my own healer. In closing, what would be the number one tip that you would like to leave the audience with today?
A big one is just not waiting for your conditions to change.
Hmm.
I had to kind of learn that the hard way. So just, you're never, whatever it is, don't wait for more money to come. Don't wait for, more time in your schedule, because chances are it's not going to happen.
Hmm.
So you're the creator of this, creator, co-creator of this life that you want. And again, circling back, you have that power to make that change. And it is the most selfless thing you can do. I really struggled with, feeling selfish when I started
Yeah,
prioritizing my
for yourself.
physical wellness. But now, knowing what I know and how it's transpired in my life, it was the most selfless thing I could do, because I showed up better for myself. I was able to show up better for my kids. I was able to show up better for Jeff. And now I'm showing up in the world to help others. If I didn't take those first steps, and they were imperfect, I'm not telling you like I was just that I was this perfect person that did everything right. Absolutely not. We are human. Have forgiveness, have compassion. I'm still not. I'm not, am I the most perfect mom? No, not a perfect wife. I'm not a perfect person, not a perfect personal trainer. I'm none of those things. But I do the best that I can with my best intentions every single day.
That's all we can ask for.
Exactly. So just don't wait for your conditions to change, because when you decide you're ready for something different, watch what happens around you.
Hmm.
Take your time, be an observer, observe yourself, be self-aware, aware of your body, aware of your reactions, aware of your emotions, aware of the things that make you feel good, aware of the things that make you not feel good. Just less focus on being mindful, I think, and more focus on being self aware and remembering the things that make you happy, that give you joy in this life, because that is really, a part of our true essence. And don't ever stop doing those things, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, the biggest takeaway is just not waiting for things to change.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining me here today and sharing, a little bit about you. And I know that you and I will figure out what we're going to call you. I don't even think it really matters.
No, right? I know.
I don't think
Karen,
it really, really matters. I called you an intuitive health coach.
I like that one. I really struggle though with the I'm becoming very open and accepting to the word intuitive now, but I did struggle with that one there for a bit, as I was coming to terms with everything. But it sounds pretty good to me. I like it.
Yeah, one of my other guests, here's what I would do if I were you as we are wrapping up here. He is a neuro linguistic somatic experience practitioner. That is a lot, right? But, anyways, write down a bunch of different things, ways that you can call yourself for your members, and say it out loud. Take a breath, hold it, let it go, see how it feels in your body. And you will
Love
figure
it.
out what you should call yourself or how you feel you should call yourself. So, anyways, that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes. Thank you again so much for joining me here today. And to the audience, as always, thank you so much. I will ensure to include all of Caren's contact details, socials, etc., with this particular publishing of the podcast. And as always, if you have any questions, you can always reach out via email. Thank you.